Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the starship Meridian, watching the swirling vortex of the newly discovered portal with a mixture of fascination and dread. 3 months ago, humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel, pushing their ships to incredible speeds that approached the theoretical limit of the speed of light itself. Now, just as they were beginning to explore the cosmos beyond their solar system, they had encountered something that defied everything they thought they knew about physics and warfare. "Commander," called Lieutenant Torres from his station, "we're receiving another transmission from the portal. It's definitely not human." Elena turned away from the viewport, her reflection ghosting across the reinforced glass as she moved toward the communications console. The transmission crackled to life, filling the bridge with a guttural, aggressive language that sounded like grinding stone and clashing metal. But what made her blood run cold was the sound of weapons fire and the background energy discharges that she recognized from their own arsenal, mixed with something else, something primitive yet terrifyingly effective. "Analysis, Lieutenant Chin?" Elena asked, her voice steady despite the growing knot in her stomach. Chin, the ship's xenolinguist and cultural analyst, looked up from her screen with wide eyes. "Commander, based on the linguistic patterns and the aggressive nature of the communication, I believe we're dealing with a warrior culture. The syntax suggests a hierarchical society built around conflict and conquest. But here's what's really disturbing: some of the weapon signatures we're detecting match theoretical designs for portal-based warfare that our scientists dismissed as impossible just last year." Elena nodded grimly. Humanity had spent the better part of the 23rd century perfecting their weapons technology, creating energy-based systems that could function effectively even at relativistic speeds. The discovery of faster-than-light travel had opened up new possibilities for warfare on an interstellar scale, but they had never imagined that other species might have already mastered technologies that could threaten their advancement. "Sir," Torres interrupted, "long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures emerging from the portal. Whatever's coming through, it's big." The viewport filled with an otherworldly sight as ships, if they could be called ships, emerged from the swirling portal. They were massive, brutal-looking vessels that seemed to be part technology, part organic growth. Jagged spires jutted from their hulls like the spines of some prehistoric beast, and energy weapons mounted along their sides pulsed with a sickly green light. "My God!" whispered Chin. "Commander, I'm detecting life signs on those vessels. Hundreds of thousands of them. And based on the biological readings, they're massive. Easily 7 to 8 feet tall, incredibly dense bone structure, muscle mass that suggests tremendous physical strength." "Orcs," Elena said quietly, the words slipping out before she could stop herself. "Ma'am?" Torres looked confused. "Nothing, Lieutenant. Just an old Earth legend that came to mind." Elena studied the approaching vessels, her tactical mind already analyzing their formation and potential capabilities. "But if I'm right about what we're dealing with, we're facing a species that views war not just as a tool, but as a way of life." The first shots came without warning. Green energy beams lanced out from the Orc vessels, striking the Meridian shields with devastating force. The ship shuddered under the impact, and emergency klaxons began wailing throughout the bridge. "Shields down to 60%! Shouted Torres. "Commander, their weapons are unlike anything we've seen. They're not just energy-based, there's some kind of dimensional component to them. They're partially bypassing our shield matrix." Elena gripped the command chair as another barrage struck home. "Return fire! All batteries!" The Meridian's advanced plasma cannons opened up, sending streams of superheated particles toward the Orc fleet. The weapons, designed to be effective even at significant fractions of light speed, struck their targets with tremendous force. But to Elena's horror, the Orc ships seemed to absorb much of the damage, their strange organic mechanical hulls rippling and reforming around the impact points. "Minimal damage to enemy vessels," reported the tactical officer. "Sir, I don't think our conventional weapons are going to be enough." Elena's mind raced. Humanity had developed incredible weapons technology in their push toward the star's plasma cannons, antimatter torpedoes, even experimental temporal disruption devices. But all of their designs were based on conventional physics, on the assumption that they would be fighting enemies who played by the same rules. These Orcs, with their portal technology and their seemingly impossible ships, were rewriting those rules. Chen, I need options. What do we know about portal technology? The Xenolinguist's fingers flew over her console, pulling up theoretical research and classified military projects. Not much, Commander. Our scientists have theorized about dimensional gateways for decades, but we've never been able to create a stable portal larger than a few centimeters. The energy requirements are astronomical. You need to harness power equivalent to a small star just to create a human-sized opening. Then how are they doing it? Elena demanded as another volley shook the ship. I don't know, but... Chen paused, her expression growing thoughtful. Commander, there's something in the transmission we intercepted. A reference to molehills? It doesn't make sense in context, but they keep mentioning small, insignificant-looking structures that contain great power. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Molehills. It was such an innocuous word, so utterly mundane compared to the cosmic-scale warfare unfolding around them. But something about it triggered a memory from her academy days, a lecture on asymmetric warfare and the importance of seemingly insignificant details. Torres, scan for any small structures or installations in this system. Anything that might look, well, insignificant. Scanning now, Commander. Torres worked quickly, adjusting the sensor parameters to look for smaller objects that their initial scans might have missed. I'm picking up several small installations on the asteroid belt, but they're so small they barely register. They look like mining outposts or research stations. Or molehills, Elena murmured. Take us in for a closer look. And prepare a boarding party. If these Orcs are using those installations to power their portals, we need to understand how. The Meridian broke away from the main battle, using its superior speed to outmaneuver the Orc vessels. As they approached the first of the small installations, Elena could see that it was indeed unimpressive, a collection of modest structures built into an asteroid, with minimal shielding and no obvious defensive systems. But as their sensors probed deeper, they detected energy readings that defied explanation. Commander, the power output from this installation is impossible. According to these readings, it's generating energy equivalent to our ship's entire reactor core, but there's no visible power source. Elena suited up with the boarding party, her mind racing with possibilities. If they could understand how the Orcs were generating this power, how they were creating stable portals across interstellar distances, it could change everything. Humanity's wars had always been limited by the speed of light. Even with their new FTL drives, moving fleets and coordinating attacks across galactic distances took time. But portal technology could make distance irrelevant. The boarding party breached the installation's minimal defenses and made their way inside. What they found defied their expectations completely. The interior was a maze of organic-looking conduits and crystalline structures that pulsed with energy. And throughout the complex, carved into walls and integrated into the very architecture, were symbols and designs that looked disturbingly familiar. Commander, said Chen, who had accompanied the boarding party. These symbols, they're not random. They're mathematical equations, but they're describing physics that we don't understand. Look at this one, it's showing how to fold spacetime using resonant frequencies and subatomic particles. Elena studied the equations, her engineering background helping her to parse some of the mathematical concepts. This isn't Orc technology, she realized. This is too advanced, too refined. The Orcs didn't build this, they found it. Then who did build it? Asked Chen. Before Elena could answer, alarms began blaring from their suit communicators. Torres' voice crackled through the static. Commander, you need to get out of there now. Multiple Orc vessels are converging on your position, and they're powering up some kind of weapon we've never seen before. Elena looked around the installation one more time, memorizing as much as she could of the alien symbols and technologies. Whatever ancient race had built these molehills, they had created something that could tip the balance of power in any war. And now the Orcs had access to it. The boarding party raced back to their shuttle as Orc ships materialized around the installation. Elena caught a glimpse of the enemy vessels as they escaped. They were even more fearsome up close, their hulls covered in what looked like living armor that shifted and moved with each energy discharge. And the Orcs themselves, visible through transparent sections of their ships, were exactly as terrifying as Chen's scans had suggested. Massive, muscular humanoids with green-gray skin and tusks that jutted from their lower jaws, wielding weapons that seemed to be part technology, part magic. As the shuttle docked with the Meridian, Elena was already formulating a plan. If the Orcs were using ancient installations to power their portal network, then those installations were both their greatest strength and their most vulnerable point. But understanding and exploiting that vulnerability would require humanity to push their own technology to its limits. Set course for Earth, Elena ordered as they reached the bridge. Maximum speed. We need to get this information to command before the Orcs figure out what we've learned. The Meridian engaged its FTL drive, accelerating toward Earth at speeds that pushed the very boundaries of physics. But even at near-light velocity, Elena knew they were racing against time. The Orcs had demonstrated the ability to open portals anywhere, to move their fleets instantly across vast distances. If they decided to launch a full-scale invasion of human space, there might be nowhere to run. The emergency session of the United Earth Defense Council convened in the deep bunkers beneath Geneva, in chambers that had been built to withstand everything from nuclear assault to relativistic bombardment. Elena stood before the assembled leaders of humanity, holographic displays showing the tactical data from her encounter with the Orc fleet. The room was tense with the weight of impending war. The implications are staggering, declared Admiral Martinez, the head of the Defense Council's Strategic Planning Division. If these Orcs can open portals anywhere in human space, our traditional defensive strategies become useless. They could bypass our border fleets entirely and strike directly at Earth. Elena nodded gravely. That's correct, Admiral. But there's more. The power sources they're using these installations we're calling molehills, they're not Orc technology. They're relics from some ancient civilization, and if we can understand how they work, we might be able to turn the Orcs' greatest advantage against them. Dr. Sarah Kim, the Council's chief scientist, leaned forward in her chair. Commander Vasquez, you mentioned that the installations contain mathematical equations describing physics we don't understand. Our theoretical physicists have been working around the clock to analyze the data you brought back, and we've made some disturbing discoveries. The holographic display shifted to show complex mathematical models and energy diagrams. The portal technology appears to work by creating resonant tears in space-time itself. But here's the frightening part: the energy requirements for maintaining these portals should be astronomical. The fact that these small installations can generate sufficient power suggests that they're tapping into something we've never encountered before. General Park, the head of Earth's ground forces, interrupted. That's all very interesting, Doctor, but what does it mean for our ability to fight these Orcs? Our intelligence suggests that they're massing for a major offensive, and our conventional weapons proved largely ineffective against their ships. Elena pulled up another display, showing the Orc vessels she had encountered. Their ships are unlike anything we've faced before. They appear to be partially organic, with some kind of regenerative capability. Our plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes caused damage, but the ships were able to repair themselves almost instantly. However, she continued, I noticed something during the engagement. Their weapons, while incredibly powerful, seem to have limitations. They fire in bursts rather than continuous beams, suggesting they need time to recharge between shots. And their ships, despite their size and apparent power, weren't particularly fast in normal space. They rely on portal technology for rapid movement. Admiral Martinez studied the tactical data. So if we could prevent them from opening portals, we might be able to outmaneuver them? Possibly, Elena replied. But that brings us back to the installations. We need to understand how they work, and more importantly, how to disrupt them. Dr. Kim activated another set of displays, showing energy patterns and theoretical models. We've made some progress on that front. The installations appear to use some kind of quantum entanglement network to maintain their portals. Each installation is linked to others across vast distances, creating a web of interconnected gateways. If we could disrupt this network, we could trap the Orc fleets wherever they happen to be when the network goes down, finished General Park. But how do we disrupt something we don't understand? Elena had been thinking about this problem during the entire journey back to Earth. We use their own technology against them. The installations are automated, they respond to specific energy signatures and commands. If we could duplicate those signatures, we could potentially take control of the portal network, Dr. Kim said, her eyes lighting up with understanding. Commander, you're suggesting we try to hack an alien technology that we barely comprehend? I'm suggesting we find a way to level the playing field, Elena replied. Because if we don't, humanity is facing extinction. The room fell silent as the weight of their situation settled over the assembled leaders. They were facing an enemy with technology that seemed almost magical, weapons that could bypass their defenses, and the ability to strike anywhere without warning. But they also had something the Orcs might not expect: human ingenuity and adaptability. Admiral Martinez broke the silence. What do you need, Commander? Elena had already prepared a list. Access to our most advanced research facilities, a team of our best scientists and engineers, and every piece of data we have on theoretical physics and dimensional mechanics. And she paused, knowing how this would sound. I need permission to attempt to capture one of the installations intact. That's suicide, General Park said bluntly. Those installations are heavily defended now that the Orcs know we're interested in them. Maybe, Elena admitted. But it's our best chance to understand their technology before they launch their main assault. And I have an idea about how to approach it. She activated another display, showing a tactical scenario. The Orcs seem to view warfare in very conventional terms: large fleets, direct assaults, overwhelming force. They're not expecting surgical strikes or stealth operations. If we can get a small team to one of the more isolated installations. You're talking about a mission behind enemy lines, with no possibility of backup or extraction, Admiral Martinez pointed out. Yes, sir. But if we succeed, we could potentially turn the tide of this war before it really begins. The Council debated for hours, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. Elena found herself thinking about the equations she had seen carved into the walls of the installation, the mathematical elegance that described physics beyond human understanding. Somewhere in those equations was the key to defeating the Orcs, she was certain of it. Finally, Admiral Martinez called for a vote. The decision was closer than Elena had hoped, but the mission was approved. She would lead a small team of specialists to attempt to capture an Orc installation and unlock the secrets of portal technology. As the council session ended and the leaders dispersed to begin preparations for what might be humanity's last war, Elena remained behind with Dr. Kim. The scientist pulled up additional data on her personal tablet, showing energy readings from the installation Elena had explored. Commander, there's something else. Something I didn't want to mention in front of the full council. Dr. Kim's voice was troubled. These energy readings, they're not just showing power generation. They're showing power consumption as well. Massive amounts of it. Elena frowned. Consumption for what? I'm not sure, but based on the patterns, I think the installations are doing more than just maintaining portals. They're feeding something. Sending energy somewhere else, to something that requires incredible amounts of power to maintain. A weapon? Elena asked. Maybe. Or maybe something worse. Commander, what if the Orcs aren't just using this ancient technology to travel between worlds? What if they're using it to wake something up? Something that's been sleeping for millions of years, waiting for enough power to return to life? Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the underground bunker's temperature. The implications were staggering. If Dr. Kim was right, then the portal network wasn't just a transportation system, it was part of some vast machine designed for a purpose they couldn't yet comprehend. How long do we have? Elena asked. Dr. Kim consulted her calculations. Based on the power consumption rates, maybe 6 months. Maybe less. Whatever they're trying to accomplish, they're building towards something big. Elena nodded grimly. 6 months to understand alien technology, capture an enemy installation, and potentially prevent not just the conquest of humanity, but the awakening of something far worse. The mission had just become even more urgent. 3 weeks later, Elena found herself aboard the stealth ship Shadow, racing toward the outer rim of known space at velocities that pushed their experimental cloaking system to its limits. Her team consisted of 5 specialists: Dr. Kim for scientific analysis, Chief Engineer Rodriguez for technical systems, Lieutenant Chen for xenolinguistics, Sergeant Murphy for demolitions and heavy weapons, and Captain Stone for tactical coordination. The Shadow was humanity's most advanced stealth vessel, incorporating technology that bent light around the ship and masked its energy signature. It was designed for reconnaissance and surgical strikes, perfect for the kind of mission they were attempting. But Elena knew that no amount of stealth technology would help them if they encountered a large Orc force. "Approaching the target system," reported the ship's AI. "Long-range sensors detect 3 installations of the type you designated as molehills, plus approximately 12 Orc vessels on patrol." Elena studied the tactical display. The target they had selected was one of the more isolated installations, located in a system with no habitable planets and minimal strategic value. But according to their analysis, it was a critical node in the portal network, connected to installations across Orc-controlled space. "The good news is that most of the Orc ships are concentrated around the larger installations," Captain Stone observed. "The bad news is that even the lightly defended one has 3 ships in close proximity." Elena nodded. "We'll have to neutralize them quickly and quietly. Rodriguez, are the disruption charges ready?" The chief engineer patted a sealed case beside him. "Modified antimatter charges with temporal compression fields. They'll create the equivalent of a small supernova, but contained within a sphere about 10 meters in diameter. Should be more than enough to disable an Orc ship without alerting the others. Assuming our calculations about their hull composition are correct," Dr. Kim added nervously. "They are," Elena said with more confidence than she felt. "Chen, any progress on the Orc communication protocols?" The xenolinguist looked up from her console. "I've isolated what I think are their standard military frequencies, but their encryption is unlike anything we've encountered. It's not mathematical, it's almost organic, like the encryption keys are alive and constantly changing. Can you fake a distress signal if we need a distraction?" "Maybe. But it would only fool them for a few minutes at most." Elena studied the tactical situation one more time. The plan was risky, but it was their best shot at getting close to the installation. "All right, people. We go in fast and quiet. Stone, take us to attack position." The Shadow crept closer to the target installation, its cloaking system bending space and light around the hull. Elena watched the Orc patrol ships on the tactical display, noting their movement patterns and reaction times. The vessels were massive compared to the Shadow, but they moved with the ponderous grace of creatures more accustomed to overwhelming force than surgical precision. "In position," Stone reported. "Orc vessels are maintaining standard patrol formation, approximately 15,000 kilometers from the installation." Elena activated the ship's combat systems. "Launch disruption charges. Target the lead vessel first." The charges streaked away from the Shadow, invisible to conventional sensors but devastating in their effect. The first Orc ship simply vanished in a flash of contained annihilation, its massive hull reduced to component atoms in milliseconds. The second charge struck home before the other ships could react, eliminating another vessel with equal efficiency. The third Orc ship began turning toward their position, its sensors apparently detecting something despite their cloaking. Elena made a split-second decision. "Full power to weapons! Take them down before they can send an alert." The Shadow's plasma cannons opened fire, streams of superheated particles striking the Orc vessel's hull. To Elena's relief, their weapons proved more effective against the isolated ship than they had been during the fleet engagement. The Orc vessel's organic armor began to smoke and bubble, and secondary explosions rippled along its length. But even as it died, the ship managed to transmit a brief signal. Elena watched the communication burst race away from their position at light speed, carrying news of the attack to other Orc forces. "How long before reinforcements arrive?" she asked. Stone ran quick calculations. "Based on their portal technology, maybe 20 minutes. Maybe less if they have ships positioned nearby." Elena turned to her team. That's our window. 20 minutes to get inside the installation, download everything we can, and get out. Move! The boarding party transferred to the assault shuttle, leaving Stone to maintain the shadow in a defensive position. As they approached the installation, Elena was struck again by how innocuous it looked, just a collection of small structures built into an asteroid, completely unremarkable except for the incredible energy readings emanating from deep within. Dr. Kim worked quickly to analyze the installation's external systems. The entry points are sealed, but not heavily defended. It's like they never expected anyone to attempt a direct assault. Or like they're so confident in their defenses that they don't think conventional weapons can threaten them. Elena replied. Rodriguez, can you get us inside? The chief engineer studied the installation's architecture with the eye of someone who had spent his career breaking things. The whole material is similar to their ships, part organic, part technological. But there are weak points where the different systems interface. Give me 5 minutes with the plasma cutter. While Rodriguez worked on creating an entry point, Elena studied the installation's energy patterns. The readings were even more intense up close, showing power flows that defied everything she knew about physics. Whatever was happening inside this facility, it was operating on principles that humanity had never encountered. We're in, Rodriguez announced as a section of the hull peeled away like the skin of some exotic fruit. But Commander, the energy levels inside are off the charts. Our suit's radiation shielding might not be sufficient for extended exposure. Elena checked her chronometer. 15 minutes left before Orc reinforcements could arrive. We'll have to risk it. Chen, you're with me. Kim and Rodriguez, head for what looks like the central core. Murphy, watch our backs. The interior of the installation was even more alien than Elena had expected. The walls were lined with crystalline structures that pulsed with rhythmic light, and the air itself seemed to hum with barely contained energy. But it was the symbols that drew her attention, the same mathematical equations she had seen before, but here they were integrated into the very structure of the facility. Commander, Chen called from a side passage. I think I've found some kind of control room. Elena joined the xenolinguist in a chamber filled with what could only be described as organic computers. Flowing, tree-like structures rose from the floor, their branches ending in nodes that sparked with electrical activity. And floating in the center of the room was a holographic display showing the entire portal network, hundreds of installations connected by lines of force that spanned the galaxy. My God! Elena breathed. It's not just a transportation network. It's a mapping system. They know the location of every installation, every portal, every world in their territory. Chim was working frantically to interface with the organic computers, her translation software struggling to parse the alien symbols. Commander, I'm picking up references to something called the Great Awakening. And there are countdown timers, lots of them. Elena felt her blood run cold. Countdown to what? I'm not sure, but... Commander, I think Dr. Kim was right. They're not just using these installations to move their fleets. They're charging something. Something big. The sound of explosions echoed through the installation, followed by Murphy's voice over the comm system. Commander, we've got company. Multiple Orc boarding parties converging on our position. Elena grabbed Chen's tablet, downloading as much data as possible from the organic computers. How much time do we have? Maybe 5 minutes before they reach the central core, Murphy replied. Elena made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. Kim, Rodriguez, get out now. Chen, grab everything you can and follow them. I'm staying behind to set charges. Commander, that's suicide, Chen protested. It's necessary. Someone needs to make sure this installation doesn't fall back into Orc hands intact. And someone needs to ensure that our data gets back to Earth. Elena activated the emergency charges that Rodriguez had prepared, setting them for a delayed detonation. As her team reluctantly retreated to the shuttle, she remained in the control room, uploading as much information as possible from the alien computers. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridors, heavy, ponderous steps that could only belong to the Orcs themselves. Elena had never seen one of the creatures up close, and as the first warrior appeared in the doorway, she understood why humanity's ground forces were so concerned about the possibility of direct combat. The Orc stood nearly 8 feet tall, with green-gray skin that looked as tough as armor plating. Its muscles bulged beneath crude but effective battle gear, and the weapon it carried was a massive energy rifle that looked like it could punch through a tank. But it was the creature's eyes that truly disturbed Elena. They burned with an intelligence that was both alien and terrifyingly familiar. "Human," the Orc said in heavily accented but recognizable English. "You have stolen from the sacred places. This will not be forgiven." Elena kept her hand on the detonation trigger, hoping to buy her team a few more seconds to escape. "Your sacred places are weapons of mass destruction. We're trying to prevent a galactic war." The Orc's laugh was like grinding stone. "War is already here, human. The Great Awakening approaches, and when the Ancient Ones return, your species will learn its place in the cosmic order." "What are the Ancient Ones?" Elena demanded. "The builders of the gates. The masters of space and time. We serve them, and in return, they will grant us dominion over the lesser races." The Orc raised its weapon. "But you will not live to see their return." Elena triggered the charges just as the Orc fired. The installation erupted in a cascade of explosions that tore through the asteroid's core, sending shock waves racing through the portal network. The last thing Elena saw was the Orc warrior being consumed by the same energy that claimed her life, a fitting end for two soldiers who had become pawns in a war either of them truly understood. The data that Elena's team brought back to Earth painted a terrifying picture of the Orcs' true intentions. Working around the clock, humanity's best scientists and military strategists tried to piece together the fragments of information recovered from the installation. What they discovered would reshape their understanding of the universe itself. "The portal network isn't just for transportation," Dr. Kim explained to the emergency session of the Defense Council. "It's a massive charging system, designed to accumulate and channel energy across galactic distances. And according to the data Commander Vasquez died to obtain, it's almost ready to activate something that's been dormant for millions of years." Admiral Martinez studied the holographic displays showing energy flows across the galaxy. "These Ancient Ones the Orc mentioned, what do we know about them?" Dr. Kim activated another set of displays, showing archaeological data and theoretical reconstructions. "Based on the mathematical equations found in the installations, we believe the Ancient Ones were a species that achieved technological godhood eons ago. They built the portal network as a means of maintaining their civilization across cosmic distances, but something happened to them. They went dormant, leaving behind only their machines and the instructions for their eventual revival. And the Orcs found these instructions," General Park concluded grimly. "More than that," Dr. Kim replied. "The Orcs appear to be descended from a slave species that the Ancient Ones created to maintain their technology. The genetic markers in the Orc DNA samples we've analyzed show clear signs of artificial manipulation. They were literally designed to serve as caretakers for the portal network." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war against an aggressive alien species, they were fighting to prevent the resurrection of cosmic entities that had once ruled the galaxy. And the Orcs, despite their apparent brutality, were simply following programming that had been embedded in their species for millions of years. "There's more," Dr. Kim continued. "The countdown timers that Chen detected are synchronized across the entire network. In approximately 4 months, the accumulated energy will reach critical mass, and the Ancient Ones will begin their revival process." Admiral Martinez leaned back in his chair, the weight of command suddenly feeling heavier than ever. "What happens if they succeed?" "Unknown, but based on the technological capabilities we've observed, the Ancient Ones would possess power equivalent to controlling the fundamental forces of the universe. They could reshape reality itself according to their whims." The room fell silent as the assembled leaders contemplated the end of not just human civilization, but potentially all life in the galaxy. Elena's sacrifice had given them the knowledge they needed to understand their enemy, but it had also revealed the true scope of the threat they faced. "Options?" Admiral Martinez asked. General Park spoke first. "Direct military assault on the portal network. If we can destroy enough installations, we might be able to disrupt the charging process." "Impossible," Dr. Kim replied. There are hundreds of installations scattered across Orc territory, all heavily defended. We need to destroy at least 60% of them to significantly disrupt the network, and we don't have the forces for that kind of campaign. What about using their own technology against them? Suggested Captain Stone, who had been promoted after his successful extraction of Elena's team. We have the control codes that Commander Vasquez downloaded. Could we use them to turn the network off? Dr. Kim shook her head. The control systems are too complex and too well protected. The Orcs have had thousands of years to perfect their security protocols. Any attempt to hack the network would be detected and countered within minutes. Then what do you suggest? Admiral Martinez asked. Dr. Kim activated a final display, showing a theoretical model that made everyone in the room lean forward with sudden interest. We don't try to destroy the network or turn it off. We overload it. Explain. The portal network is designed to channel energy in specific patterns, following mathematical equations that maintain stable space-time configurations. But if we could introduce a variable into those equations, something that would create a resonance cascade, we might be able to turn the network's own power against itself. General Park studied the model. What kind of variable? A ship traveling at exactly the speed of light, positioned at the precise gravitational center of the network. The relativistic effects would create quantum fluctuations that the ancient one's mathematics can't compensate for. The room erupted in discussion as the implications became clear. Dr. Kim was proposing to use Einstein's own theories as a weapon against technology that predated human civilization by millions of years. It's theoretically possible, admitted the Defense Council's chief physicist, who had been quietly analyzing the proposal. But the precision required would be incredible. The ship would need to maintain exactly light speed for several minutes while positioned within a few hundred meters of the optimal coordinates. Any deviation would either destroy the ship or fail to create the necessary resonance. And whoever pilots that ship? Admiral Martinez asked, though he already knew the answer. Would not survive, Dr. Kim confirmed. The relativistic effects alone would be fatal, even before the network collapse. Captain Stone stood up slowly. I'll do it. Captain, you don't understand the risks. I understand them perfectly, Admiral. Commander Vasquez died to give us this chance. I'm not going to let her sacrifice be meaningless. Admiral Martinez studied the young officer who had served with distinction under Elena's command. Stone had the skills necessary for such a mission, and more importantly, he had the determination to see it through regardless of the personal cost. Very well, Captain. But this mission requires more than just piloting skills. You'll need to modify one of our fastest ships to achieve precise light speed, navigate through or controlled space without being detected, and position yourself at the exact center of a galactic-scale energy network. Are you certain you're prepared for this? Stone's expression was resolute. Yes, sir. What do I need? Dr. Kim pulled up technical specifications for the mission. We'll need to modify a scout ship with experimental FTL drives, enhanced navigation systems, and enough shielding to survive the initial energy surge. The ship will also need to carry a specialized weapon, a device that can create a localized temporal distortion at precisely the right moment. How long do we have to prepare? Stone asked. 3 weeks, Admiral Martinez replied. The Orc forces are massing for what appears to be their final assault on human space. If we're going to do this, it has to be before they complete their mobilization. The modified scout ship Phoenix hung in the docking bay of Earth's most advanced military shipyard, its hull gleaming with exotic alloys and experimental technologies. Captain Stone walked around the vessel, inspecting every modification that the engineering teams had made over the past 3 weeks. The ship's FTL drives had been completely redesigned, incorporating theoretical principles that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Instead of the standard space-time compression systems used by human vessels, the Phoenix would achieve light speed through a controlled matter-antimatter annihilation process that converted the ship's own mass into pure energy. It was a one-way trip by definition. Once the process began, there would be no way to reverse it. The navigation system is tied directly into the portal network data that Commander Vasquez obtained, explained Chief Engineer Williams, who had volunteered to oversee the modifications. You'll be able to track the energy flows in real time and position yourself at the optimal coordinates. Stone nodded, studying the complex displays that would guide him through the most dangerous flight in human history. What about the temporal distortion device? Mounted in the forward torpedo bay. It's essentially a controlled black hole generator. When activated, it will create a gravitational anomaly that should trigger the resonance cascade Dr. Kim predicted. But Captain. Williams paused, his expression troubled. The device will detonate automatically when your ship reaches critical energy levels. There's no manual override. Understood. Stone had accepted the finality of the mission weeks ago. Like Elena, he understood that some victories required the ultimate sacrifice. Dr. Kim joined them in the docking bay, carrying a data pad with final calculations and mission parameters. Captain, we've refined our understanding of the network's energy patterns. The optimal insertion point is here dash. She indicated a position on the holographic display. In the Vega system, approximately 47 light-years from Earth. Vega is deep in Orc territory, Stone observed. How do I get there without being detected? That's the beauty of your approach speed, Dr. Kim replied. At exactly light speed, your ship will be undetectable to conventional sensors. You'll be traveling too fast for electromagnetic radiation to escape your vessel, and the space-time distortions will mask your gravitational signature. Stone studied the mission profile one more time. Launch from Earth, accelerate to light speed, navigate through Orc space using the portal network's own energy signatures as a guide, position himself at the center of the network, and activate the temporal distortion device. Simple in concept, but requiring precision that would challenge even humanity's most advanced technologies. One more thing, Captain, Dr. Kim added. Our analysis suggests that the Ancient Ones may become aware of your approach as you near the network's center. The energy patterns will be disrupted by your presence, and they may attempt to interfere with your mission. What kind of interference? Unknown. We're dealing with entities that possess technological capabilities we can barely comprehend. They might try to disable your ship, redirect your trajectory, or... She hesitated. Or what, Doctor? Or communicate with you directly. The portal network isn't just a transportation and charging system, it's also a massive computational matrix. The Ancient Ones exist within that matrix as pure information, and they might be able to project themselves into your ship's systems. Stone felt a chill at the thought of encountering godlike entities while traveling at the speed of light, but his resolve remained firm. I'll complete the mission regardless of what they try. Admiral Martinez arrived for the final mission briefing, accompanied by the senior staff who had planned Operation Phoenix. The mission had been named in honor of the mythical bird that rose from its own ashes, an appropriate metaphor for humanity's attempt to destroy their enemies by sacrificing one of their own. Final status report. The Admiral ordered. All systems green, reported Chief Engineer Williams. The Phoenix is ready for launch. Orc fleet movements? Admiral Martinez asked. General Park consulted his intelligence reports. Their main battle groups are still positioned around key installations, but long-range sensors detect increased activity near the galactic core. We believe they're preparing for the final phase of the Ancient One's revival. Which means we're running out of time, Admiral Martinez concluded. Captain Stone, are you ready? Stone saluted crisply. Yes, sir. Request permission to launch immediately. Granted. And Captain, humanity owes you a debt that can never be repaid. Stone climbed into the Phoenix's cockpit, sealing himself into a vessel that would become his tomb. The ship's systems came online with a hum of barely contained energy, and he could feel the exotic matter-antimatter drives building toward activation levels. Phoenix, this is Control, came the voice of the launch coordinator. You are cleared for departure. Good luck, Captain. Stone engaged the drives, feeling the ship surge forward as conventional thrusters pushed him clear of Earth's orbital facilities. Behind him, the home world of humanity fell away, perhaps forever. Ahead lay the vast darkness of space, the territory of an enemy that commanded powers beyond imagination, and a mission that would determine the fate of all life in the galaxy. As Earth's sun dwindled to a point of light behind him, Stone activated the FTL system that would carry him to his destiny. The ship shuddered as exotic energies coursed through its hull, converting matter into pure velocity. For a brief moment, he experienced the strange sensation of existing at the boundary between matter and energy, between existence and annihilation. Then the Phoenix achieved light speed, and Captain Stone began his final journey across the stars. At exactly the speed of light, time became fluid and space contracted to infinitesimal dimensions. Captain Stone experienced the universe as a blazing tunnel of compressed starlight, with the portal network's energy signatures appearing as threads of fire that spanned the cosmos. The Phoenix rode those threads like a surfer on waves of pure force, guided by navigation systems that translated alien mathematics into human understanding. The journey that should have taken 47 years passed in what felt like moments and eternities simultaneously. Stone's consciousness expanded and contracted with the ship's passage through folded space-time, experiencing echoes of the Ancient One's presence in every quantum fluctuation. As he approached the Vega system, the network's central node began to manifest as more than just energy readings on his instruments. It appeared as a vast geometric structure made of crystallized spacetime, with the installations serving as anchor points for mathematical concepts that existed outside normal reality. And within that structure, Stone began to sense something vast and alien stirring to wakefulness. Human. The voice came not through his communication systems, but directly into his mind, bypassing his physical senses entirely. You travel the sacred paths without permission. This transgression will not be tolerated. Stone maintained his course, fighting against the overwhelming presence that was trying to invade his thoughts. I'm here to stop you from destroying my species. Destroy? The mental voice carried amusement tinged with contempt. Your species is merely an ephemeral incident in the cosmic order. We do not destroy insects, we simply fail to notice them. Images flooded Stone's mind, visions of the Ancient Ones in their prime, entities of pure thought and energy who had shaped galaxies according to their whims. They had transcended physical existence millions of years ago, becoming beings of living mathematics that existed within the fundamental structure of reality itself. Then why do you need the Orcs? Stone demanded, struggling to maintain his focus on the mission. The Orc kind serve as our hands in the physical realm. They maintain our works and prepare for our return to active participation in cosmic affairs. Their loyalty is absolute, bred into their genetic code across thousands of generations. Stone saw flashes of Orc history through the Ancient One's memories, generations of warriors serving as caretakers for technologies they barely understood, driven by instincts that compelled them to protect the portal network at any cost. The Orcs weren't evil in any conventional sense, they were simply following programming that had been embedded in their species' DNA. And when you return? Stone asked. We will restore order to a universe that has become chaotic in our absence. Stellar civilizations will be guided according to optimal patterns. Inefficient species will be corrected. The cosmos will once again serve its proper function as a canvas for our works. The Phoenix reached the optimal insertion point, and Stone began the delicate process of positioning himself at the exact center of the network's energy matrix. The temporal distortion device powered up automatically, its exotic matter core beginning to collapse into the controlled singularity that would trigger the cascade. You cannot succeed. The Ancient One warned, its mental voice growing more forceful. We have computed every possible variable in this scenario. Your primitive technology is insufficient to disrupt our works. But Stone smiled as he felt the ship's exotic matter drives reaching critical resonance. You computed every variable except one: human stubbornness. The temporal distortion device detonated, creating a localized black hole that lasted for only nanoseconds but disrupted the fundamental mathematical constants that governed the portal network. Stone felt the ship dissolving around him as matter and energy became indistinguishable, but he also felt something else: surprise and alarm from the Ancient One as its carefully maintained equations began to collapse. Impossible. The entity's mental voice grew distant and fragmented. The mathematics are perfect, the patterns cannot be broken. But they were breaking. The resonance cascade spread through the network like a virus, each installation amplifying the distortion and passing it on to the next node. Ancient technologies that had operated flawlessly for millions of years began to overload and shut down as their control systems encountered mathematical paradoxes they couldn't resolve. As the Phoenix and its pilot were consumed by energies that defied classification, Stone's final thought was of Elena and her sacrifice in the Orc installation. They had both given their lives to protect humanity, but more than that, they had proved that courage and determination could triumph over even godlike power. The portal network collapsed in a cascade of failing installations and imploding gateways, stranding Orc fleets across the galaxy and severing the Ancient One's connection to the physical universe. In a few seconds of relativistic time, humanity had won a victory that would echo across the cosmos for millions of years to come. 6 months after Operation Phoenix, Admiral Martinez stood in the observation deck of humanity's newest flagship, watching Orc vessels surrender to human forces in the Proxima Centauri system. Without their portal network, the Orcs had been reduced to using conventional faster-than-light travel, making them vulnerable to humanity's superior speed and maneuverability. But the war was far from over. Cut off from their masters, many Orc commanders had chosen to fight on independently, using the advanced weapons and technologies they had accumulated over millennia of service. Others had attempted to rebuild the portal network using incomplete understanding of the underlying principles, creating unstable gateways that posed new threats to galactic stability. Status report, Martinez ordered as his chief of staff approached. The Orc fleet in this system has agreed to surrender terms, but intelligence reports that several warlords in the Outer Rim are still attempting to reconstruct portal technology. They're using installations that survived the cascade failure, but without the central coordination matrix, their portals are highly unstable. Martinez nodded grimly. Humanity had prevented the resurrection of the Ancient Ones, but in doing so, they had also inherited responsibility for managing technologies that were still far beyond their complete understanding. Some of the smaller installations continued to function, creating opportunities for both advancement and catastrophe. Any word from the diplomatic mission to the Orc homeworld? Ambassador Chen reports slow progress. Many Orc leaders are still struggling to accept that the Ancient Ones are truly gone. Their entire culture was built around serving those entities, and without that purpose, their society is fragmenting. Martinez understood the challenge. Humanity had not just won a war, they had accidentally destroyed the central organizing principle of an entire civilization. The Orcs were now a species without a purpose, adrift in a universe that no longer made sense to them. And our own research into the portal technology? Dr. Kim's team has made significant progress, but she estimates it will take decades to fully understand the mathematical principles involved. The good news is that we've identified several installations that could be safely reactivated for scientific study. Martinez looked out at the stars, thinking about the future that Elena Vasquez and Captain Stone had died to secure. Humanity now possessed access to technologies that could reshape their understanding of physics, but they also bore the responsibility of ensuring that such power was never again used to threaten galactic civilization. Begin negotiations with the surrendering Orc commanders, he ordered. See if any of them are willing to share their knowledge of the Ancient One's technologies in exchange for integration into human space. It was an ambitious goal, turning former enemies into allies, transforming a war of extinction into an opportunity for mutual advancement. But if humanity had learned anything from their encounter with the Ancient Ones, it was that even the most advanced civilizations could fall victim to their own hubris. As the human fleet began accepting the surrender of Orc vessels, Martinez reflected on the strange turns that had brought them to this point. They had started as a species confined to a single solar system, taking their first tentative steps toward the stars. They were ending as the inadvertent guardians of ancient technologies and the inheritors of a cosmic responsibility they had never sought. But perhaps that was fitting. The Ancient Ones had sought to impose order through power, creating a universe shaped by their own desires for perfection and control. Humanity, by contrast, had achieved victory through sacrifice and cooperation, proving that even godlike technology could be defeated by beings willing to give everything for the sake of others. In the distance, a small transport ship detached from one of the surrendering Orc vessels. It carried the first delegation of former enemies coming to negotiate a new future, one where strength would be measured not by the ability to impose one's will, but by the wisdom to share power responsibly. The war was over, but the real work was just beginning.